Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Enterprise Adventure Masterclass on graphic design, why it's used, what is used, and how it's used. We hope you're all ready for a great masterclass today. I'm so excited to have you all with us. Today, our expert is Robin Wilde, and he is a graphic designer who currently lives in Canada, though is originally from the UK. Say hi, Robin.
Hi, thank you everyone for joining me. It's really nice to be here today. As Elizabeth says, I grew up in Britain. I briefly lived in the USA, and now I live in Canada. And I've been working as a graphic designer for the last 7 or 8 years.
Well, we have a great masterclass for you today, and Robin is going to take you through why graphic design is important, and we're going to do a step-by-step demonstration. But first, before we start, I want to hear from you, okay? So I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you all to write your answers in the chat bar. What comes to your mind when you hear the words graphic design? So think about it for a second and type your answer in the chat bar. It can be just a few words or just one word. So what comes to your mind when you hear the words graphic design? Enterprise adventure. Yes, that is a good one. We do cover graphic design in the enterprise adventure. Creating designs with your laptop. HTML. Thank you, Chirag. That's a very good example. We do use it in web design too. Ibrahim said creating designs with your laptop. Thank you. Anmol, you have raised your hand. Oh, Rokibot says visual designs. Cherry says technology. Ishant says 3D designing that may be used in games or any web platform. That's a really good answer. Abdul Latif says creating designs using technology. That's true. Yes, technology, visual arts. That's a really nice way of putting it. Really well done. Digital arts also included. Yes. Robin Wilde. That comes to mind. Good job. I hope so too. Okay, thank you for your answers, everyone. So you're absolutely correct. Fine digital art. Thank you, Anmol. Yes, a lot of digital art is involved, but it goes a lot deeper, and we're going to cover that further on in the masterclass. So let's introduce our expert. Our expert today is Robin, and we're going to ask you a few questions.
Sounds great.
Okay, so first of all, what first got you interested in graphic design?
I think my story about how I got interested is the same as a lot of graphic designers, which is that I knew that I liked doing creative things. I used to draw a lot when I was small, and then when I was in my teens, I got interested in playing around with creative software on my computer. I learned how to use Photoshop, which was the main thing that I could get hold of at the time. And I used to make posters and little bits of artwork and memes and that kind of thing. And that was basically kind of my intro to that. And that was how I learned that I was good at using the software. When I became interested in it as a field to work in was when I was at university. I was working on the student newspaper, and I was studying journalism at the time. And I liked doing the writing, and I still do a bit of writing, but I discovered that I enjoyed putting the paper together in software more than I enjoyed, doing the articles. So people just kind of picked up on the fact that I was good at that, and it's kind of rolled from there. And when people have needed me to do creative looking things for them, they've come and asked me, and it's been a very casual process, really. I didn't go to university for graphic design. I just learned it myself.
That's really interesting. So you don't need to go to university. You can just get into it and teach yourself. And I think a lot of the adventurers on our program just start off casually playing and experimenting with it. So that's really good to hear.
Yeah.
So following on from that, what made you want to do graphic design as a career?
Well, my career in graphic design has been quite specific in terms of I've worked for a lot of charities and a lot of non-profit organizations and a lot of campaigns. And when I was a volunteer for those things, I would do graphic design. So, for example, I'd design leaflets or I'd design social media posts. And when those campaigns end and you see that you've made an impact, especially if you've won a victory, you've been successful, that's a really good feeling of accomplishment. And I kind of felt that if I can turn people's words and ideas into a really appealing content that makes those things succeed, that's a really worthwhile career to go down. And I realized quite quickly that it was a career I could make enough money to pay my rent and to keep myself in food. And after that, it became really easy to just pick up more and more of it. And I've been really lucky that my experiences of graphic design have been that it's a job I can do that pays the bills, but it's also a job I really quite enjoy because there's a lot of creativity and a lot of variety to it.
It's good that you can enjoy something that also earns you money. That is important.
Yeah, exactly. I feel incredibly lucky because there's a lot of jobs I could be doing that wouldn't be that combination. And if you can enjoy something and make a living from it, that's not bad.
Absolutely. So thank you for that answer. We're going to ask you, what does an average day look like for you?
So that does vary. It's quite a varied job. Usually, I would say that probably only about half my day is spent doing design work. There is a lot of background work that goes into it. So I'll be going through emails, responding to clients, following up on pitches, sending invoices so that I get paid. And that's the start of my day. I will usually have some kind of feedback or changes to do on some design that I've come up with as we work towards getting something towards finished, or I might need to send something to the printers. That's often what I do next. And then towards the afternoon, I start out working on new projects or new bits of design within an existing project. Because I find that once I've got all my outstanding work out of the way, that's when my mind is clearest and I can focus most on producing things that are new. But there's other things in there as well. So sometimes in my current job, I have to go out and take photos. I have to visit sites of some of the clients that we work with, or I have to create sort of social content for our social media channels. And that might involve going to an event that the university is hosting and taking photos and video there. So it can be quite a different day to day, but it's quite fast moving. A lot of tasks I do are quite short. I'll need to spend 20 minutes editing something and then maybe spend an hour coming up with something new. It does change around a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of research and background involved in each job. So something what we'll discuss more later. Before we move on, we have one question already. There'll be a bit more of a chance for a Q&A at the end. But Sahaj says, what age did you start graphic designing?
The first time that I did something that I think counts as graphic design, I was probably 14. I first started getting paid for graphic design when I was about 19. And I would say it became my full-time job when I was about 22.
All right. Well, that's absolutely perfect. We have a lot of 14, 15, 16-year-olds who are really interested in getting into it at a young age. So that's great.
But I would also say that if you get into it slightly later, that's also okay. There's a lot of resources out there. You can pick it up very quickly. So there's no limit on when you have to get started on it.
No, there's no rush. So what projects have you worked on and are you working on now?
Quite a few. So I've done a few bits of work with branding, so coming up with logos and fonts and color schemes for organizations, including a theatre in my old hometown of Sheffield, a couple of campaigning organizations. So that's been a big part of it. I've done lots of animation work for creating videos for social media. And that was particularly for my old employer, who was a campaigns organization, where I worked on two very big campaigns around two general elections in the UK. And then I've also worked on a lot of print design, so a lot of laying out reports, creating magazines, creating brochures that get handed out at events. And then even sometimes I do really small things like we have a wall of photos in my current office, and I have to create the little labels that go underneath those. And that's graphic design too. That takes a couple of minutes per thing, but that has to be designed. Someone has to think about how that looks. So the scale can go from really big bits of work that take 3 months to really small things that take a couple of minutes. What I'm working on now is we've got a couple of events coming up at my work, which are going to take place throughout June. So at the moment, I am designing some emails that are going to go out to invite people to those events, designing some Zoom backgrounds, which are going to be used for people who are taking part in that event remotely. And I'm coming up with designing the presentation that's going to be used to sort of walk people through what we're doing through the day. So it's a lot of, it remains that I'm working on a lot of specific events and deadlines. And I just have I have those in mind as I kind of get working on. Usually there's several different pieces of design that go towards one event.
Oh, oh, well, that sounds really interesting. We've actually been asked, could you share the photos to inspire us? Maybe we will afterwards. We're going to do a step-by-step demonstration, so stay tuned for that. But also, it does encompass a lot, from very small things to, as you say, to, big animation and things. So there's a lot of scope in graphic design.
Yeah, definitely.
So we're going to move on to what is graphic design, and I'll let you take over here, Robin.
Sure. So we have, it's a big question, because when you think about graphic design, you're mainly thinking about visual things, and you're thinking about people using their creativity to create something visual. So you could say that it's a form of art, and I think that to an extent it is a form of art. I do illustration work. I draw. I, in the past, have painted as part of graphic design. So you could think of those as being parts of traditional art. But I would say that design is usually art with some kind of purpose in mind. It's not just there to look pretty. It's there to tell a story, or to promote a product, or to persuade someone of something. And in that respect, you could say it counts as a form of advertising. Certainly, graphic design is very heavily used in advertising. And I think that to a certain extent, it's about communication. It's a communications tool. You're trying to, rather than just giving someone a block of text to read to try and explain what you're doing or what you're selling or the idea that you want them to support, you are turning a lot of that written language into visual language. And to that extent, graphic design is it's a language tool as well. So it's all of the above, really. And it is a way, I think the best summary I can give is that it's art with a purpose. It's a tool to persuade, or to inspire, or to instruct, and that's it's a really powerful thing.
Art with a purpose. That's what I want everyone to take away from that. That's such a good way of summing it up. It's, you want to teach someone something, you want to sell them something, you want something from them, or even to change the world. If you're doing a campaign, it's art with a purpose is a really good way of putting it.
Yeah, definitely.
So also, why is graphic design useful? Kind of leading on from that. There we go.
So I think the number one reason that it's useful is that if you think about your day, you think about when you wake up in the morning to when you go to bed at night, you will see so many things that have been designed. I'm looking at the things on my desk around me now. I have this coaster that was designed. I have a pair of headphones. I have some post-it notes. I have a computer monitor. All of those things needed to be designed. All of those had a graphic designer at some point in their process who thought about how does this look and what kind of message does it send. And all of that means that everyone is faced with so many different designed objects in their day that breaking through that and making something unique that people remember can be really hard. And if you don't have graphic design, it makes that job harder. And there are places and people and organizations that are successful without very good graphic design, but they have to work harder to get it. So that kind of making your case really concisely in a way that people can understand clearly through visual communication is an incredibly useful tool. It also, if you have a set of graphic design principles, what we call brand guidelines, that underpin your company or your organization, that creates a sense of identity. People can look at something you put out on social media, they can look at a sign on your office wall, they can look at something you send them in the mail, and they'll say, okay, that logo means I associate this thing with that organization. And that sense of brand identity is really quite powerful, because so much of the things that you might need to say to persuade people that you're trustworthy or that your products are good or that the campaign you support is worthwhile, that can be summed up in them seeing that logo and those colors and that font and recognizing that it's from an organization they recognize. But at the same time, graphic design is really useful because it can allow you to do something a bit different from your brand. You can be really creative with it. And sometimes if you do something that is outside the norm, outside what's normal for what they're looking at. So if you design a social media graphic that's really unique and does something really interesting or breaks the rules, people will remember that more than something that's really standard. So it can be useful in all sorts of ways. But I think that all of these come back to making your organization or your business or you personally just stand out as something that's different from everyone else, that's trustworthy, and that can speak really easily to what you're trying to say.
Wow, thank you so much for that explanation, Robin. Yes, we definitely cover brand identity and the importance of using your creativity to have a unique selling point. And you can go along with, if you are employed by a brand, their own brand identity, but putting your own unique stamp on it is also important. So thank you. I can see we do have a couple of raised hands. We're going to take questions at the end, so stay tuned for that. If you have any questions so far, please put them in the Q&A and we'll get back to them at the end. So if you have anything you want to ask, do it now. Thank you. And now we're going to move on to ask you a question. What skills do graphic designers need? Because graphic design and entrepreneurship go hand in hand. It's not just a useful tool to stand out in the enterprise adventure, but a way to market yourself and your business. So it ties to the previous masterclasses we've done, like web development and social media branding. And in order to get really good at social media branding and web development, you'll need graphic design skills too. So can you please type in the chat, what skills do graphic designers need? So it can just be one word, anything that comes to mind. And we'll see if you're right. We're going to reveal them one by one. There are many more than the ones we're going to reveal, but please put them in the chat. So what skills do graphic designers need? Any skill that comes to mind. Creativity, that's a really good one. Copywriting, thank you, Emmanuel, that's a really good one. Most people wouldn't necessarily think of that. Problem solving by Rookie Bat. Chirag says coding skills. Yes, that might pop up. Imagination, yeah, thank you, Abdul Latif. Ratika says creativity. Coloring skills. Yes, color is very important, knowing the right colors to use. Wow, everyone's using critical thinking. Ibrahim, that's really useful. You wouldn't necessarily think that for graphic design, but you do need to be critical of yourself. You need to reflect on your own work. Dajal says drawing and sketching. Rakibat says time management, very important. Sahar says hard work. Yes. Jem says dissatisfaction in perfection. That's really interesting. That's a very good one. Perspective. Thank you, Akshat. Wow, but lots of really good answers there. So let's see if you're right. Perspective. Techno skills. Yes, very good. Creativity. That's let's get the most obvious one out of the way. Creativity. You've got to have a creative inspiration. So that one little spark can take you a long way. Drawing. That's a pretty easy one to start with. Computer knowledge. Did anyone say computer knowledge? Yeah, technology skills.
Yeah, tech skills, yeah.
Marketing. You need to market yourself and your work. Empathy. I didn't see anyone say empathy yet. Now, why do you think that is? Do you think does anyone know what empathy might pop up? Brand building, coding, understanding the concept of the thing. Yes. I'd say empathy is because you're working with someone who often is employing you and they want one thing, you might want the other thing. You might have different ideas about what design you want and you have to come to an agreement, and that's a really important part of doing business. Problem solving, that's a really important part. We did see that pop up. Research, there's a lot that goes into every design. You have to do your research. Time management, yes, that's one. Typesetting, yes. Color theory, I'm glad someone mentioned that.
Yeah.
Yeah, color theory is so important. And yes, much more. Maths, that's one that you wouldn't expect. Why would you think maths is important, Robin?
So I think it can be really important because there's a lot of calculation that can go into things like where you are positioning objects on a page, knowing how to send things to print with the right dimensions. And if you're working on video, timing and understanding how to count frames and that kind of thing. There's especially actually if you're doing web design as well, a lot of that comes down to maths if you're coding. So it can be really good to have an understanding of how the numbers kind of play into what you're trying to produce.
Yes, you wouldn't expect it, but yeah, if you're good at maths, it might even help you in graphic design. So now we're going to start again with what tools graphic designers need. So that can be a physical tool that you hold in your hand or something you use on your computer or your phone. So can everyone write in the chat bar a tool that a graphic designer might need? So anything that comes to mind. Digital software, applications, Photoshop. Yes, big one. Photoshop, Corel Draw. That's a one. That's a good one too.
Yeah.
Yes. A laptop. That is important to start with. A web platform. Yes, you'll need a web platform to get noticed. Figma. That's a good one. Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that. Emmanuel, that is on our list. So is Photoshop as well. Right. A teacher. Thank you, Chirag. Browser. Thank you, Ishant. A sketch. Pen and paper. Got to start somewhere. Adobe Illustrator. Thank you, Emmanuel. Very good. A graphic tablet. Thank you, Sijal. So let's see if you're right. Pencils. Very important. Pens. Also important. Paper. Also important. A ruler. You have to know, straight lines, can't be doing wonky lines. A camera. I didn't see anyone say a camera. Now that could just be your phone camera, but having the reference materials is actually really important to see how things look and gain that perspective. Yes, we've got tablet, we've got computer software, computer knowledge, a nice desk, chair, and light. And I put this because a lot of graphic designers suffer from a bad back because you're leaning over. Now, I hope that none of you are leaning over and hurting yourself. So please always make sure to sit up straight when you're doing your design work. A contact method, that is important, because you could have the best design skills in the world, but if no one can contact you and hire you, then you won't be able to make a profit. Photoshop, yes, very important. InDesign. Nobody mentioned InDesign. Has anyone mentioned InDesign? We've mentioned Illustrator. That will pop up in just a second. A good hard drive, especially if you're working with video, it can, or a good phone, because you don't want your computer to crash. Blender. Now that's a 3D editing software. So if you're interested in 3D work, and I saw some people ask, is there a way to do graphic design in 3D? Blender is something you should check out. Illustrator, the program. Figma, there's one. And finally, Canva. Now, Canva is what we're going to do a demonstration on in just a moment. So if anyone has any questions about what they've heard so far, please write it in the Q&A and we'll get back to it later. Is everyone clear on what we've covered so far? Please ask your question if you have any questions or are unsure about anything so far, okay? All right. Okay. Good. So we've spoken about skills and tools that graphic designers need. So now it's time for us to become graphic designers. So now Robin is going to share your screen and we're going to show you around Canva. And we'd like you to follow along and also go to Canva. So please look up Canva, and you don't even need to sign up for an account. You can just play with it. There's a big button that should say play with Canva. Robin will demonstrate and you'll be able to follow along with the activity. So Robin, can you share your screen?
Yes, I can. So I'm currently logged in, but I might sign out just so I can see where you said play with Canva. Okay. Here we go. So showing my screen now.
Yes.
So you can see here, this is Canva's homepage.
Can everyone see the screen? First of all,
let me know.
Type in the chat if you can see. Are you all ready to go? And has anyone used Canva before, by the way? If anyone's used Canva before, please let us know. I'd be really interested to hear if you're familiar with it. It's a website, it's free, it's completely free. Go to Canva and it has loads of pre-made designs, so it's really easy to play with. Yes, Ishan says I'm familiar with it. Rokibap says I'm familiar with it.
Great.
Ratika says I'm familiar with it. Emmanuel says, thank you. We have so many people who are familiar with it already.
Excellent. Well, that's good to know. So hopefully you'll be able to follow along. If you aren't logged in, you can go down here to play with Canva. And what this will do is it will give you loads of templates you can look for. And I think we were hoping to do a poster for a birthday party, weren't we?
Yes. So we were suggesting something to market yourself. So if you search through the templates for birthday party, something might come up. So what we want you to do is search for birthday party in the templates. And there are lots of interesting ones that come up. And
yeah, you'll see them all listed here.
Yeah, from the template, you can edit them and you can insert your own photos and own text. You can put your own name, you can change the colors, and you can do whatever you want. So I want everyone to follow along. So Robin, if you choose one, we'll make your own birthday party poster.
Let's, why don't we choose this one? So I quite like this design. You don't have to pick the same as me. You can pick whichever one you want. But what I'm going to show you here is that all of these elements of this poster, so this background here, these little sparkles, this text, these arrows, these are all separate elements. So I can edit them to be whatever I want. So if I want to change the phone number here, or I want to put in an email, let's put in my email. There we go. So if people want to respond to this, now they've got mine. And it's actually my girlfriend's birthday party today. So I'm going to pretend that we're making one for hers. So instead of Isabel, it could be Anna. And what I'm doing here is I'm double clicking on that text, and that's letting me edit that. And she's 36. And it's taking place at 12 p.m. And today is, what is it, May the 26th, 27th?
27th.
Okay, 2023. And we are meeting at Moody Centre Station, or Moody, BC. So that's pretty much me just editing the template there, but there's more I could do. So if you look over here on the left, you've got all sorts of tools. I'm going to go onto elements, and you'll see in here you've got loads of different things you can add. So pre-made little graphics, like these speech bubbles. Or you've got these little stickers you can add. So if I wanted to say, make this a link or something, and put a little click down there so people know to tap that, that's something I can drag in and add. And they've also got, you can do things like, if you have a shape, you can drop that in, and then I can type in the shape. So if I wanted to add, please bring presents, and I can drag that there and find out what font this is by clicking on that text. I can see that it's the font called More Sugar. So if I go to the font drop down here, put in Sugar. I can then go to, I've got lots more options for text. So if I was to click that text and go to this color selector here, actually that's the text one, you can see that I've got all these pre-made colors, but I can also click this little button, which will give me a big range of colors I can choose from. But I'm just going to make it white because I think that stands out well against that background. And now I've made that box, I can drag that around and place it wherever I like. And a good thing about Canva is it will show you these little transparent lines, which show you when you've lined things up, because making sure that things line up correctly and are all in the right kind of order for the reader is really important part of graphic design. So add that there. And I think this poster demonstrates some really good basic principles of graphic design as well. So if you look at the sizes of things, we've given things different sizes to show their prominence. So the most important thing about this invitation is that it's for a birthday party. So that's the biggest text. It's got its own background. It's kind of separated out from the other elements of the page so that you can tell that's what you're supposed to focus on first. Also separated out, but a bit smaller and without a background, is the fact that it's Anna's 36th birthday party, because that's really relevant information. These details are quite crucial. So they've been given their own sort of separated off bits of the image. And then further down here, this is like the last bit of information people need to know, because the RSVP should be like, they take in all this information, then they decide if they want to come to the birthday party, and then as a last action, they RSVP, they send in their response. So I think it kind of, yeah, it's a really good illustration of the power of hierarchy and making sure that things are presented in the right order, and that even if things aren't presented top to bottom, like these aren't, you can still create that focus by making things bigger, giving them separate space, or using things like colored backgrounds to say, hey, draw your eyes here, this is important.
Yeah, you want, imagine someone looking with their eyes and the direction their eyes travel across the page.
Yeah.
So you don't want everything too clustered together, but you at the same time, you don't want them too spread apart. You want it to be a natural progression of the way they read, you know? So imagine that you're someone reading a flyer. You want it to stand out, right? You want to have, you know, the big text easy to read, and you want the information where they respond to be really easily marked out, so they can go, oh, that's how I get back to you. Mm-hmm. So that's how you do it. So I want everyone to go to Canva and start your own birthday party poster. And you can either share it with us now, and you can send it to us before the end of the masterclass, and we'll be able to share it. But if you'd like to spend more time on it, we will let you know how to gain your certificate of attendance by sending us your birthday party poster. Okay, so if anyone would like to start and try making their own birthday party poster with your own names and your own colors, then please go to Canva right now, and we'll spend a few more minutes going around all the different features of Canva.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm just going to show you how to add a photo, because I think that might be quite nice. So there's a couple of things you can do here. And one of the things that's really cool about Canva is if you drop in a shape. So we'll do a circle here. You can drop, I think you can drop photos directly into that. So let me just see if I can grab one of those. I'll need to log in if I want to upload a photo. So I might just see if there's some kind of other image.
Now you can create your own account, but you know the free version has fewer features, but it's very easy to create an account if you have more time. Yes.
So, but if you want to do that, what you do is you drop in a frame. You would go to uploads and select a photo, and then from that uploads panel, which is over here on the left, you would drag the photo into the frame, and then the picture will appear in the frame. So you have it in a nice circle. So if I was logged in, maybe get a photo of, you know, Moody Centre, or a sky train that we're taking to get there, or a birthday cake, something along those lines. That would work really well. So we've got a couple of other features as well. We have drawing tools. So I don't have a mouse connected to this computer right now, so anything I draw is not going to look very good. But if I wanted to like draw a little, select a pen first. If I wanted to draw a little birthday cake, say.
Yes.
This is the sort of thing that a graphic designer might do with a tablet, or if they're very good with their mouse.
If you have lots of time, you can really go into the drawing and make it look perfect.
Absolutely. And drawing is really important, even if you're doing digital design, because if you're working on a logo or something, sketching out all those things before you commit to a design can be a really good way of like getting your ideas together and making sure that you know what you want to do. So we've drawn that little birthday cake. Let's grab that over here. I'm going to click group so that it's basically one object. And then let's change the color to white. There we go. We have a little illustrated birthday cake. Not my finest drawing one. Yeah, it's in keeping with the font, so it looks good. So that's the drawing tools. And then we've also got text. So like with the overall designs, you've got a lot of different templates here, and you can change these. So let's say it was a birthday party, but we also wanted to have pizza. We have this pizza party sign. And there's lots of preset little effects on this, so that's why it's glowing. But if I wanted to say, make it give me another type of food you'd have a party around. Let's say I really like donuts, so we'll have some donuts. I have a donut party. We can change that really easily by just double clicking on that, and all those effects stay applied. So it's really cool because you don't have to like flatten the text, you don't have to commit to something, you can change it around later and experiment. So that's one of the things I really like about Canva. So I'll remove that for now. Another thing that's worth showing you is that you can change the order in which things go. So you can put things behind other things. So these sparkles at the moment are in front of that that text box. But if you right click on that, you'll get this little menu. And the option you want is layer. and that lets you, so let's say we center back. So that's now the thing at the back of those layers. So because they're all independent objects, they're all layered in front of one another. And that's now behind, so that little sparkle isn't in front of that text box. But I think I quite like it there, so I'm going to bring to front. And there we go. Just trying to think if there's anything else I can show you. It's pretty much it. There's only a few elements of Canva, really. There's text, there's images, there's drawings, and there's shapes. And that's one of the things that's really there's the little secret about graphic design is things can look really complicated, but actually there might only be a few elements that are making it up. And so much of what is going into that is knowing that you've chosen the right colors, that you've got the right fonts, that things are in the right order, and you can make something that looks really professional and really sleek, but without having to put a huge amount of complexity into it.
Thank you so much, Robin. That was a really good overview of Canva, and that makes it a lot more accessible for everyone. I hope that everyone understood everything, and if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A. We'll get to them in just a moment.
Please feel free.
And
I did think, actually, Elizabeth, sorry, it's probably also worth showing them how to download their designs when they finish them.
That's probably quite important.
So once you're done and you're happy with your design, what you can do is you can go up here to share, and then you'll have an option to download. And I don't want this to be an MP4 because it's not a video. So I'm going to go for, it gives you options, and happily it sums up what these are. So usually for something that's going to be digital, go for a JPEG or a PNG. Go for PNG. And then hit download.
Yes.
Okay, so if you want to save it, you'll need to log in. But
or you can sign up.
Yeah, but it has downloaded my image. So I'm just going to open that in my image viewer. And there we go. There's our invitation.
Oh, you saved it.
Yeah,
amazing.
So we could print that off and hand it round, or we could go and send that around on social media or email it to people. And that makes it super easy. So Canva's really good for if you want to come up with something that can work across lots of different formats, because it lets you save it as an image, it lets you save it as a PDF file, which you can print. It lets you save animations as videos. So you've got lots of options.
Yes. So I encourage everyone to play with Canva, save your image and send it to us. So yes, if you want to save your image, all you need to do is click share on the top right-hand corner. Oh, I see Ishant has shared an image. I made mine. I hope it's impressive. I will. Yes, I'll just have a look at it. Oh, well, actually, what we're probably going to do is if anyone sends ones to us and we really like them, you might be featured on the blog. So I encourage everyone to share their designs and might feature them on the Enterprise Adventure blog. Okay. So thank you, everyone. Remember, you don't have to rush. If you want to have more time, then, there's lots of time for you to go and create your perfect birthday party poster, because now I'm going to share my screen again. So can everyone see my screen again? Okay. So share your poster. Don't be shy. If you like more time, please send it to info@enterpriseadventure.org, or a few hours from now, everyone who's attended will get an email with instructions on how to upload their design. And this will be how you gain your certificate of attendance. You'll need to submit something to us. So we want you to submit as many lovely posters as you can. So one per user, but we want you to make a lovely poster, and the best ones we featured on the blog. And that's how you'll get your certificate. Okay. So thank you so much, Robin, for your time. And now it's time for a Q&A. So check your inbox soon for the recording. And if you've enjoyed this masterclass, I'm just going to share the feedback form in the chat. So I've just shared the feedback form in the chat. So we'd really appreciate your feedback on this masterclass. But first of all, let's do a Q&A. So Akshat says, which softwares do you use mostly?
That's an interesting question, because obviously designers have lots of different skills, and not all of them will use the same set of software. For me, I mainly use Photoshop, which is for editing images, Illustrator, which is for designing little logos and graphics and playing with text, and then InDesign, which is for laying out print documents. So that's for creating things that you're going to send to a printer mostly. I also use Adobe Premiere and After Effects, which are the two video editing pieces of software that Adobe create. Premiere is more for editing live video that you've recorded, and After Effects is mostly for doing animations. So those are the five that I mainly use. But there's a few other things as well. Some of my clients like to work with Canva, so I create Canva templates for them, which they either go on and edit themselves. I sometimes do some web design work, so there's some coding involved. I use an editor called Atom for that. And then there is some sort of front-end web design work as well, so with things like Wix or Squarespace or Adobe Portfolio, where you're just editing a site visually in your browser. So those are the main things. But I would say that probably 90% of my work is Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign.
Thank you. Yes, I hope that answers your question, Akshat. And related to that, Ibrahim says, does graphic design include 3D animation?
Yes, absolutely, it can. I've done some 3D work in the past. I find that it's quite a high skill set, that it requires a lot of work to get good at it, and it requires a lot of patience. But if you can become good at it, you can do some amazing things. If you look at the environments in video games or in movies with CGI, those have all been 3D modeled and animated by graphic designers. And usually what would happen is that when someone gets good at that, they would specialize in that, because you can earn quite a lot of money doing it. And it's a really quite specific skill set. But there's free software out there like Blender, which Elizabeth mentioned earlier, which I highly recommend going and having a look at. Google, I think, have a product called SketchUp, which is a simpler 3D tool that actually is used by architects. So there's a crossover there as well, people who do 3D modeling.
Yes, we hope that answers your question, Ibrahim. So please look into Blender and SketchUp if you're interested in 3D design. So Sahaj says, how can I earn with graphic designing when I'm only 16? And how much time should you invest in a day to improve your graphic designing skills?
It can be difficult to get started getting paid, certainly, because obviously people want to hire people who have some experience. What I can recommend is, if you have family or friends who are doing things that might benefit from graphic design, so they might need leaflets, or they might be hosting events or parties or anything like that, or they might be doing activities at school that they want to promote, offer to help them. They may not pay you initially, but what that will give you is examples of your work that you can show to people and say, look, I'm capable of doing this. This is, work that is valuable, and I'm worth paying for this. And it can be hard to start with. When I started out as a graphic designer getting paid, I didn't go straight into doing that as my full-time job. I did that as a sideline alongside my day job, and that sort of built up from there to the point where I could take it full time. But sorry, this was the second half of the question, was how many hours a day should you invest in it? It really does depend, but what I would say is that the best way to learn is to find a problem you need to solve using graphic design and find a way to do it. What I can recommend if you want to get started is there's lots of tutorials online. If you Google graphic design tutorials, you'll find thousands of examples. Some of them are videos, some of them are written articles, some of them are like step-by-step image guides, and that will show you how to do usually one specific thing. But if you do enough of them, you'll understand some of the common skills that are being used across those different pieces of work. So I highly recommend just do something regularly so that you don't fall out of the habit. But I'd say if you're doing something every day, that's really good. If you want to spend an hour on it, that's great. But you've only got 24 hours in the day, so it's about the quality of what you're doing as much as it is about how much time you're putting into it.
Yes. So a little bit and often will really help. Even when you're just 16, you can do it on the side, and you can show it off to your teachers, and you can put it on applications for jobs in university. And even that small amount will really help you in the future. You can put a little bit into it every day, even if it's just drawing or taking photos, it all adds up.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
next question. Emmanuel says, is it possible to do graphic design with your smartphone?
Yes, there's quite a bit you can do. I think Canva has a smartphone app, and you can at least get started using that. I think for some higher end things like making animations or doing 3D modeling, you'll need a computer, but there's an awful lot you can do with a smartphone. So don't feel that has to limit you, certainly. If you want to make event invites or social media posts, there's all sorts of tools for smartphones that you can use to do that. So I highly recommend actually just getting the Canva app and just continuing to work with that until you've got a good grasp of it. That's probably a good place to start.
Yes, Canva has an app. So everyone, after the masterclass, why don't you go check out the Canva app and you can have a little play with it. And finally, I think our last question, because we're unfortunately running out of time, I'm sorry everyone, is Abdul Latif says, can you create animations using Canva?
Yes, there are some animation templates, and it will let you download those as MP4 files or video files. I highly recommend, if you go to Canva, look through their templates, because there's a lot of those that are animated, and it will be for things like invitations to events or promotions on websites. It probably can't do more complicated animation. So if you wanted to make a cartoon, that would be something that would be quite difficult to do with Canva. But it's a good place to get started and kind of understand some of the fundamentals. The main software that's used for animation in my experience is Adobe After Effects, which lets you do much more complicated work. And people make animations for TV shows and that kind of thing in After Effects. And there used to be a bit of software called Flash, which I think you can still get hold of, but it's a bit deprecated now, a bit out of date. But that was also a really important tool, and might still be worth getting hold of and learning.
Yes. Oh, Flash is an old tool. I remember it very well.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, everyone. We can see some designs coming in, and we're going to feature them on the blog. So look out for that very soon. And finally, before we wrap up, we know a lot of you have been asking about this. So you may have noticed the deadline for season 4 of the Enterprise Adventure passed on the 14th of May. So we know a lot of people have been asking when the prizes will be announced. So we'd like to announce that you'll be getting an email tomorrow that'll outline when the prizes will be announced. So the prizes will be announced next week, and there will be one prize winner announced every day: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, with a roundup on Sunday. So there'll be a new prize winner announced every day. But even if you don't win, don't worry, because the Enterprise Adventure Season 5 has just begun. So even if you don't win a prize this time, there will be lots more prizes to be won throughout the entire year. So we encourage you to go and keep completing the missions if you haven't done so yet. Okay? And complete as missions as you can by the new deadline of 31st of August. So that's the new deadline. If you think, oh no, I can't win a prize, that's okay. You've got until the 31st of August. So look out for the new prize winners next week. And if you don't win, lots more chances. So thank you so much, Robin, for your time. We hope everyone enjoyed the masterclass, and please fill out the 2-minute feedback form, which will also be sent to you via email in just a few hours, along with the recording of the session. It's also in the chat. So thank you so much for your time. And Robin, would you like to say a few last words?
Yeah, thank you everyone for joining. I hope you found that interesting and useful. And I hope some of you decide to start learning about graphic design and becoming designers. I'm really looking forward to seeing what you come up with. All right, thanks everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.